There's a certain kind of magic that happens the moment you drop a needle onto a record. A soft crackle, a dusty whisper, and then suddenly, music fills the room as if it's arriving from another world. It's warm, imperfect, alive. And for anyone who grew up in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, vinyl wasn't just a format. It was a lifestyle, a ritual, a companion. Today, we're taking a long, slow walk through memory lane, a warm, nostalgic journey across 3 decades of vinyl, how it evolved, how it shaped us, and why it refuses to stay in the past. So grab a crate, run your fingers along the spines, and let's talk about the most iconic musical medium ever created. Let's start in the early 1960s, when vinyl was already the king of home listening. Back then, the turntable had a permanent spot in the living room, right next to the giant wooden console TV that weighed about the same as a small car. Most families had those big, beautiful record consoles that doubled as furniture. You didn't just listen to records, you invited guests over to listen to records. It was an event. And the music? The early 60s were dripping with rich harmonies and golden pop melodies. Motown was on the rise. Soul was becoming unstoppable. Rock and roll had grown up a little. You could drop the needle on the Supremes, the Beach Boys, Sam Cooke, or early Elvis, and the whole room felt different, warmer somehow. The 45 RPM single was still the superstar of the era. Kids would line up at record stores after school to buy the latest single for $1, maybe less if the store owner liked you. And nothing, absolutely nothing, beat the thrill of flipping that 45 over to hear what was hiding on the B-side. Sometimes it was a throwaway track, but every now and then, the B-side was better than the hit. But something else was brewing. Albums were getting more ambitious. The 33 RPM LP wasn't just a way to cram more music into one place. It was becoming a canvas, a place for storytelling, a place for experimentation. Then came 1964. When the Beatles landed in America, they didn't just change music, they changed what a record could be. Suddenly, albums weren't just collections of songs. They were experiences. And thanks to vinyl, those experiences had weight, texture, a kind of permanence digital music will never be able to copy. The late 60s saw album art explode into full-blown psychedelia, swirls of color, surreal landscapes, hidden messages, gatefold covers you could get lost in for hours. Records weren't just meant to be heard, they were meant to be held, touched, stared at. And there was a ritual to it all. Peeling the shrink wrap, sliding out the sleeve, reading the lyrics printed inside, dropping the needle, waiting for that warm hiss that told you the music was coming. Vinyl was immersive before immersive was even a buzzword. By the time we entered the 1970s, vinyl wasn't just thriving, it was untouchable. This was the decade where the record player practically became a household member. Right next to the shag carpet and the macrame plant hangers, you had stacks of albums leaning against the wall, usually without a proper shelf because you kept telling yourself you'd buy one next weekend. And if the 60s introduced the LP as an art form, the 70s perfected it. Think about how many iconic album covers came from this decade alone. Dark Side of the Moon, Rumors, Hotel California, Born to Run. These weren't just records. They were cultural landmarks. This was also the decade of the concept album. Rock bands weren't just giving you songs. They were giving you entire worlds to disappear into. Progressive rock albums came with elaborate artwork, hidden symbolism, and more liner notes than some novels. Listening to vinyl became something you did with intention. You didn't just put a record on as background noise. You sat down, you listened, you experienced. But vinyl was more than high art, it was emotional currency. If someone came over and browsed through your collection, they were basically touring your personality, who you loved, what you believed, whether you were cool or just desperately trying to be. And then there was the sound. Vinyl wasn't perfect, and that's exactly why we loved it. The occasional pop, the warm hum, the tiny imperfections. They gave the music character. They made it feel human. When you listened to a record, you weren't just hearing notes, you were hearing presence. But as the 70s rolled on, vinyl wasn't content to stay the same. The technology improved. Pressing quality got better. Turntables became sleeker, heavier, more precise. Audiophiles got obsessive. Cartridge types became arguments. Tracking force became a thing you discussed with alarming seriousness. Owning a really good turntable in the 70s practically meant you had your life together. Of course, vinyl also had its quirks. The static, the dust, the accidental scratch that made you want to cry. The friend who tried to touch your record with their bare hands like an animal. And let's not forget the heartbreak of a warped LP, every vinyl collector's personal tragedy. You'd open the sleeve, hold the record to the light, see that ripple, and know instantly your evening was ruined. But vinyl kept dominating anyway. Even as cassette tapes showed up in the mid-70s, people still trusted records for the most important listening moments. Vinyl was for the living room, for the family, for the nights when you dimmed the lights, lit a candle that smelled vaguely like patchouli, and let an album wash over you. Then came the 80s, the decade of neon, big hair, and even bigger synthesizers. Technology was moving fast. Compact cassettes were suddenly everywhere, portable, recordable, and perfect for the car. And then in 1982, the compact disc arrived like a shiny little alien spaceship, promising perfect sound forever. People were dazzled. No pops, no scratches, no static. You could drop a CD, wipe it with your shirt, and keep going. And vinyl? Vinyl suddenly looked old-fashioned, like the kind of thing you only kept because you weren't ready to let go. But here's the twist. Vinyl didn't die, not even close. Yes, CDs pushed it out of the mainstream for a while, but vinyl held on to something CDs never had: soul. While digital formats got cleaner, louder, and more sterile, vinyl stayed warm, authentic, organic. CDs felt like science. Vinyl felt like a hug. And then something incredible happened. As the 90s moved into the 2000s and music became completely digital, people started to miss the physical connection, the ritual, the artwork, the weight, the warmth, the experience. Vinyl came back. What once lived in thrift stores and your grandparents' attics suddenly started showing up again in record shops, Target displays, and teenage bedrooms. A whole new generation fell in love with the very thing their parents sold at yard sales for $5. And let's be honest, the sound is part of it, but the truth is deeper than that. Vinyl forces you to slow down, to listen intentionally, to stop multitasking, to sit still for 20 minutes and enjoy something without checking your phone. It's physical, it's present, it's real. A record is something you keep, care for, display. You build a relationship with it. You see the marks of time, slight wear on the corners, little creases, fingerprints. You remember where you bought each one, who you were with, what was happening in your life when you listened to it. Streaming can't give you that. Digital playlists don't hold memories. Vinyl does, and maybe that's why it keeps coming back. Because vinyl reminds us of who we were, who we loved, where we first heard a song that would stay with us forever. It brings back the sound of your parents cooking dinner in the kitchen while the record spun in the other room. It brings back your first apartment, sitting on the floor with a cheap turntable and one decent speaker, letting music echo down the hallway. It brings back the feeling of flipping through a friend's collection and discovering an album that would become yours too. Vinyl isn't perfect, it's personal, and that's why it matters. Today, the vinyl resurgence isn't just nostalgia, it's a rebellion against convenience, against disposability, against the idea that music is supposed to be background noise. Vinyl says sit down, listen, feel something, remember. So whether your collection is in a temperature-controlled sleeve archive or in a dusty milk crate beside your record player with a cat sleeping in it, your connection to those records is real, and it's something worth celebrating. Before we wrap up, here's something to consider. Every record you own has lived a life. Someone bought it, opened it, played it, loved it. It traveled. It passed hands. It survived moves, breakups, parties, decades. And somehow, it found its way to you. That's the magic of vinyl. It doesn't just play music. It carries memories. It carries people. It carries time. If this episode brought back a memory or reminded you of the record that meant the world to you, drop it in the comments. And if you love this trip through the evolution of vinyl, make sure to like, subscribe, and keep that turntable spinning. There's a lot more nostalgia where this came from.